Good evening. So, none of me feels like chit-chatting right now, but we're going to do this. I said I was going to go over these podcasts that I watched, talk about the Adam Kokesh thing. I thought it was really interesting. So, basically, I didn't know the back. Oops, are we glitching? Okay, let me know if it's better, you guys. As you'll know, I've been kind of in it a little bit with the Mises Caucus over the last couple of months. It was never really my intention, but it just kind of happened. And then people's true colors start to come out and you're like, this is interesting. So basically somebody I don't even know, it was probably this weekend or whatever, added something on one of the threads over there on Twitter. And they were like, oh, something like Adam Kokesh. And I was like, I don't know anything about this because I didn't really follow a lot of libertarian influencers. I didn't really, I wasn't on Twitter at all. And so I didn't know anything about the internal drama. I used to try to really, really just stay out of it. So somebody had added me on there and I think they shared, I honestly think that somebody ended up tagging the video of Adam Kokesh doing a podcast with Clint, who y'all know I've had a little bit of back and forth with Clint. If you don't know who he is, check out my stories. Just click out of the live, check out my stories, and you can see all the wonderful tweets he's been sending my way. Over the last week, we had some issues. He had come on here for a podcast, thought it was cool. We talked, he defended Mises Caucus, all that stuff. And then afterwards, what really pissed me off, I try to be okay, if we're cool, right? And P.S., I'm somebody that if I say it in a message to somebody, I'm always say it. Clint, the dude who does anomaly streams. Yes. Yeah. That's actually probably the first place that I ever saw him on. That's the guy that I did a podcast. I did it over here as an Instagram live, with him last week. We were debating Mises Caucus. So anyways, long story short, he says on one of the threads afterwards, basically he went easy on me and I was like, yo, okay, that's going over the line. If you're going to be cool with somebody, you don't just go back and pretend like you went easy on them. It's just rude. So, and I was like, whatever. Anyways, long story short, some drama popped up with him last week. I kind of called him out because I'm like, look here, you are being shady again. This is what you did. And that's kind of how somebody led me to this story. So basically, I guess, so this wasn't last summer. It looks like it would have been 2021. So it was a year. No, yeah, this would have been it would have been last summer because they had the convention in Reno last May. I wasn't able to go. But basically around that time, it looks like there was some drama between Adam Kokesh, who was a pretty big in the Libertarian Party. Somebody says Clint is more in favor of lockdown than liberty. Haha, that was a good joke. So it looks like Adam Kokesh started getting into it with some people over on Twitter, kind of same like me. He started calling people out, okay? He started calling out Mike Heiss is what it sounds like. He started calling out, and I don't know because honestly, I didn't do my homework in this scenario. I did not look at the Twitter threads. I tried to go back a little ways in his Twitter. I didn't see it right away. And then I just kind of gave up. So I watched the Liberty Lockdown podcast though. So the backstory is it sounds like he was kind of calling people out over on Twitter and suddenly, it's the same crew starts to align around the situation, exactly like what happened with me. And that's why I was like, what is going on here, So what happens, let's see, Mike Heiss also blocked me on Twitter. Mike Heiss loves to block, okay? The Mises Caucus, I call them the libertarians. They love to block. They're going to block everyone. It's just back in the day, you have that communist Russian photo where it's here's Stalin or, and he's got all those people with him. And then suddenly they give you a new version of the photo and one's X'd out. And then they give you a new version of the photo and one's X'd out all the way till it's just a photo of him all by himself. That is the Libertarian Party under the Mises Caucus to me right now. That's what I see happening. So basically, they're editing everyone out of the photo. And so anyways, so it sounds like the same crew starts aligning around this situation, just like what happened to me. So what happens? Clint invites him on his podcast to hash stuff out, to talk about it. But what really happened, well, I have notes here. Now, unfortunately, I wanted to set it up so that I could, somebody asked a question, hold on. I wanted to set it up so that I could do clips and stuff like that, but honestly, I've never done that before, and it doesn't work on Instagram. I would have had to stream over on YouTube, and I don't really have time. So I have like detailed notes. But basically, so, it starts off, it's over, and you guys can find this. I'll put the link in like the link to their video in my video when I post it on YouTube afterwards. But, so basically it kind of starts off, Adam and Clint is there. Clint stepped in. Clint's going to do the damage control. Funny enough, just like he tried to do with me, he's going to take care of the dissenting voice and show everyone, what the real situation is here, who could be trusted and everything. So, like I said, this is over on Liberty Lockdown Podcast. Back from, it looks like it was probably like last spring, like right before the convention, maybe like a couple months around there. So what Adam is saying is that basically he said that like they were starting like a whisper campaign about him, in the Mises Caucus circles, and try to make him look bad to people. And that, once I went through the podcast, it sounded like maybe this had been happening for a few years. And he talked about he had kind of just let it go, like let people get away with it. And he pointed out the exact same names. That was the craziest thing. Like he pointed out the exact same names of the people that I've had problems with. So basically issues with Mike Heiss, and I'll get more into that, like what he said there. But also another name that came up almost right away was Joshua Smith. Joshua Smith, who sad loss for the Libertarian Party today. He actually stepped down as vice chair. He wrote an email that gave all kind of noble reasons, in 15 paragraphs of why he was stepping down. And if anyone wants to weigh in that, feel free to comment. But basically, Joshua Smith is the person who did a 2-hour podcast smearing my name about like a week ago or something. He tried to call me out, call me a liar about my son. He tried to, basically just make me look awful, start calling me an e-thought, like as soon as I questioned the Mises Caucus. And sounds like he was right in this situation here too, because, basically Adam goes right into it saying, people like Joshua Smith and Mike Heiss are lying and they're getting away with it. Have you had any issues with Angela? I have not personally had much interactions with her. I think he referenced her a little bit in the video, so I'll talk about that. So anyways, he goes on to say, like, Josh Smith must really hate himself. And I was like, yeah, this is exactly what I've been seeing. This is the Josh Smith that I've been seeing from the Libertarian Party. Like, what is going on here? So I was like, instantly when I started watching this video, I was like, sounds exactly like what I have been experiencing by having just a little bit of a dissenting voice. So it comes, again, pretty quickly into the podcast. He talks about what was the initial issue, okay? And the initial issue, he says, is that he was actually blocked from the Mises Caucus Facebook group, like before they were ever even like in power. He was, for some reason, he was blocked from their Facebook group. And y'all know what happens when they start blocking people. There's, smear campaigns, there's people, he calls it a whisper campaign. But for me, it was like very public, like she's a Fed and everyone's coming at me and all this stuff. And it sounds like he experienced the same thing, but it was like years ago. This is the culture of the group. This is how the Mises Caucus operates, okay? They're the libertarians. And if they don't want you in their club, you're not going to be in it, and they're going to align all the team against you. So basically, even back, whenever he was talking about, it sounded like a couple of years prior, he had been blocked from the Mises Caucus Facebook group. And so it sounds like a lot of the issues kind of started with another similar topic. Like, what would you know? Another similar topic to what I brought up with Clint last week, which is, I didn't bring this up specifically. It was shared all over the internet, but basically, let's see, someone said, so basically they're like losing. Yeah, so basically they've been tyrants for a while. This is one story, one example here. My issues that I've had with him, a second example. And then it looks like, they lost Josh Smith, which, I mean, he's one of them, but he had to step down today. And then also, or chose to, or whatever, however he wants to frame it, he stepped down as vice chair. And I think somebody else stepped down too. So it's always Fed infiltration. Haha. Usually you're not committing crimes. You won't have a problem with the feds. Exactly. And that's what's so funny is that they act like, and I'll get into this because he says some stuff in this podcast that I thought was so on point to like exactly what I've been thinking. But yeah, I hadn't quite put it into words yet. So, anyways, so basically it sounds like what Adam had maybe done that kind of people were upset about is similar to kind of what I called out Clint on. So, the Clint thing last week. It's 8:45. Sorry, y'all. It's going to keep doing that because I don't know why my son, he accidentally said it. So it tells you every 15 minutes what time it is. Okay, so last week, Eliza Blue, there was a whole scandal around her, but a clip came out, which actually, I think it was filmed not that long before this. It sounds like, well, maybe it was about a year or so. But anyways, so Clinton had Eliza Blue, who he says is his friend Eliza. He made a whole video about it lately, a fake apology, not apologizing, but justifying why he supported her even after these statements. But basically, she had come on his podcast also on Liberty Lockdown, and she had talked about the fact, she had said some quotes about, basically in a utopian society, the elders, the family, the church people, the community would decide when, and she used the word child, would be ready to engage in sexual relations with an older person is what it sounded like if they were old enough to be with an adult. And it was totally cringe awful. And, he knew that she said this a year and a half ago, and he let her basically continue to be retweeted by the Libertarian Party. He continued to support her. And so I did call out the fact, I was like, look, if you knew that she said this a year and a half ago, this is not what we stand for as libertarians, or it's definitely not what we should. Okay. And you're going to continue to support this person, have the Libertarian Party retweet them. You don't have our best interest in mind. You just want to be grifting off her following. And that's how I see Clint. That's how I see him as a person. So, and I mean, I don't know, but I just look at the data and basically that seems to be how he operates. If somebody has a big following, he wants to attach to it. If somebody calls out Mises Caucus, he's going to do the damage control. And that just seems to be his kind of little role. Little niche in the thing. So that situation is kind of interesting because this is similar. And I got a lot of backlash for that. I reshared it and suddenly I'm a bad actor. I'm an awful person. How could I reshare this? Well, dude, you had her on your podcast and you didn't call her out. So what, you think I'm the one that's the problem because I reshared it and I said Clint, why are you supporting these people? Why are you allowing them to look like the face of our party as the Libertarian Party retweets this lady 5 times within a month? It's not good luck. It's funny he does that because he's a Republican who Clint likes to block for no reason and can't handle disagreement. Exactly. And that's how the Mises Caucus works. Did you just hop on? We were just talking about that's the history of the Mises Caucus. They block everyone because they're libertarians. Okay, so anyways, what Adam Kokesh had done apparently, and it's interesting because I'm supposed to be on a panel on Larry Sharp's show, so who knows if I might ask him about this, but it sounds like what happened was Bill Weld, who people do not like at all. No one apparently liked Bill Weld when he was, the vice presidential candidate. And he had been working on a production. And I guess somehow Larry Sharp was involved also. And there was somebody who, it sounds like what Adam Kokesh was saying is that this person was a convicted pedophile or known pedophile, something like that. working on the production. And what he's called out Bill Weld on was not like, why are you still having this person? Why are you supporting this person? Why are they working on your production? And apparently he called Larry Sharpe out on that too. Somehow because he was told by somebody that, that he hadn't stopped it either or something like that. It was kind of like a confusing situation, but people started to pass it along, according to him in this podcast, as like he called Larry Sharpe like a pedophile. And he explains the situation, says that's not what happened, but there had been like, I guess, kind of like a whole little smear campaign against him after that. So Clint was questioning why running a libertarian candidate against DeSantis because he thinks DeSantis lockdowns was good. Oh, I see. And he lives in Florida too, huh? Clint likes to block. Okay. So basically, it sounds like that kind of had started some issues for Adam, and that's what he was talking about. Now, he, let's see. I got some notes here, so I'm like, let's go through the notes. Let's see what we go. Yeah, so he admits that he went too far, and I don't know if that was before or after. Maybe somebody can answer me if that had anything to do with why he was kicked out of. He kind of goes back and forth in the story a lot. But basically what he goes on to say is that, yeah, libertarians call it freedom of association. It doesn't really work when it's a political party, because and this is my own personal standpoint, but if you are a political party, okay, if that's your job, like we are the Libertarian Mises Caucus, not me, but they are, and they want power in the government to tell you, supposedly how to just live your life, and they're going to leave you alone. How they work as a political party is a preview, and you are probably like not that smart or not that intuitive if you don't think that every way that they act is a preview to how they would act if they get elected. So you need to watch people like, oh, okay, so what have we seen here? People making excuses about, these type of like sexual issues, this stuff that I saw, with Clint and the Liza Blue lady, and him just kind of like, oh, her comments are totally fine. Or what Adam Kokesh was talking about when he saw Bill Weld use this person. Or another more recent, like very, very, very recent story that's happening right now is the LNC is having an anti-war rally, and one of their speakers, everyone says he's a warmonger, but he was also a convicted of like sex with a minor. And okay, do not quote me on this because I don't know exactly, or sexual relations or something. But basically what I saw, and I'm not, again, don't quote me, I don't know the facts, I didn't look into it, but it looks like the issue was like maybe in 2014 or something, or 14 years ago or something, but the guy's like 60, so it's like he was not that young then. Like that is a big, like anybody that qualifies as any type of minor, that's like a huge red flag there. Like you're okay with DeSantis using government to shut down small businesses. Oh, you're not talking to me, you're chatting in the comments. That's cool. So anyways, so that person is supposedly speaking at the anti-war rally that they want to have on February 19th. And again, they supposedly noticed the issue, or it was brought to the LNC, and they tried to disinvite him. And then what they say, and this is all via Twitter, I didn't take like a comment from them, but apparently what they said was that the other speakers like banded together when they were like, if you don't have him, or like he got them to, like, if you don't have him speak, then we're not going to speak, and they didn't want it to ruin their rally. So, let's see, someone says anti-war rally. Well, I'm going to get into that because I think rallies aren't my thing. Like, you think you're going to go rally and that's going to change anything? Like, it's not going to change anything. So you're just wasting time, wasting money, and propping up speakers. And if you prop up those speakers, they better be good ones. They better be the people that you want to be like the face of the party, not someone with like a seedy past that we shouldn't be supporting, So apparently they decided to keep the person because they felt like they had to, and people are mad. But now we have 3 stories here of people not calling out things that they should because they think they're friends or it's politics or something like that. And it's just a bad look, because if you're not going to have principles and stand on them, then like, what are you doing? Rallies raise the energy. I'm glad I don't think someone unilaterally using government to close down small business. Oh, okay, those are, okay, side comments. So, and somebody tell me about this. So like, he had talked about, Adam Kokesh had talked about too, like so he starts to talk about like, you know, first of all, he had tried to get reasoning from Dave Smith and Josh Smith. Like, why was he blocked from the Mises Caucus? Like, why couldn't he be, you know, why was he blocked from the group? They were going to get him an answer, which they never did, of course. And then he starts to talk about, you know, how he felt at the time, or this is kind of what he seems to describe, is that, you know, like he's kind of telling Clint, like, there are forces in the party that create division and like F up the messaging. And this, basically, that's what's happening right now. Like, these are dishonest, disruptive forces that are, you know, effing up the message, and they are like creating division and problems. Like, this is not good. And he's talking, you know, about these people and part of the Mises Caucus and everything, and how it's not really, it's like sowing division. He also talks about he didn't think Joe Jorgensen was the best candidate for 2020. He felt that Jacob Hornberger was better, which I don't know who that is. I was going to look him up and I hadn't had a chance. And then he starts to talk about, you know, like a big part of the mission that he sees, like possibly these people having, like these Mises Caucus players and everything having, is like, basically he kind of hints to, like, there's something called COINTELPRO, like basically like trying to make the party ineffective. And is this what's happening, you know? So he kind of points to that as like, is this intentional? Because it's almost like sabotage, which is something that I've been thinking about for a while now, because like, this is why everyone hates me in the party, first of all, and it sounds like why they did not like Adam too, but we'll get on to that more. But basically, there wasn't anything wrong with Joe Jorgensen. That wasn't his point. I think his point is that exactly what anyone says, like, she wasn't going to get elected, and he thought that this other person was a better candidate. You know, feel free to watch it and see what you think, you know, like interpret what he said or anything. I'm not putting words in his mouth, but I'm just going off of like what I saw. And it seems like he thought the other person was a better candidate. I think that a lot of times, you know, we pick ineffective candidates, ineffective figureheads, and we act in ways that are ineffective as libertarians, and that really, really is holding the movement back. And that's been my entire thing that I've been trying to tell people. And it's like, nobody wants to hear it, of course, but they also get like vehemently angry at me when I point it out. So when I say, let's see, somebody said Jason Hornberger had 0 chance of getting elected more than Jorgensen. Okay, I'll have to look into that and comment back later. But basically, you know, when I try to tell other libertarians, like, this is exactly what I was trying to tell Clint on the live stream that I had with him, is that, look, like, when we act like clowns, you know, when we're rude to people, when we just trying to be funny all the time and say, you know, like swear words and just foul language and just stupid sounding comments and stuff, people are not thinking like, I want to align with that political party and vote for their candidates. Okay. You have to have good looking candidates. You have to have good messaging. And we're not really doing ourselves a service when we think like, oh, well, it's fun. We have lots of comedians here. Let's be the party of clowns. Like, you can be the party of clowns, but no one's going to vote for you. So that's the point I tried to make. And everybody gets so mad. They're like, you're the problem. You're the problem. No one's voting for your clown candidates. Okay. Nobody wants to watch you guys vape. Like, no offense. We like vaping and stuff. Well, I don't like vaping. I'm fine if you do it. But people don't see you like vaping and smack talking each other and think like that's a person that's going to run the country, right? Like, you have to put a certain face forward in order to try to appeal to people in a way that's going to make them feel comfortable. Okay, it's like, think about this. Like, say, I used to be a physician assistant. Say I walk in the room and I'm swearing at I'm like swearing at the patient, and I'm vaping, and I'm like, I'm about to do a procedure on you, okay? And I'm telling them like how I'm because I used to do procedures actually. Like I used to do what they call central lines, where you actually put a needle and a catheter into the person's main, into their vein here. But, you've got arteries there, you've got all kind of stuff. So if I walk into the room and I'm like vaping and swearing at them, and I'm just like laughing as they tell me stuff, and I'm calling them like, retarded and stuff, do they feel comfortable when I want to get out, I want to, someone said, can you do Botox? I don't have any Botox, and I don't practice medicine anymore. But so they're not going to feel comfortable then when I break out the scalpel and the needle and all this stuff, and I'm swearing and vaping, and I'm telling them like they can trust their life in my hands. That person's going to be nervous, okay? Rightfully so. So when you act like that and you think people are going to vote for you as president or senator or anything like that, you're in dreamland, okay? Like, and you can tell me all day that I'm the problem for pointing that out, but it's just human nature. No one's going to vote for you. So there are forces and there are people that try to pretend, in my opinion, and kind of what he seems to be saying here, they try to pretend they're good for the party and that like they're trying to do something, but they're actually like doing the exact opposite of what needs to be done and hurting things. And then you have to wonder, like, is this intentional? Because look how
it's 9 o'clock.
It's been 15 minutes, you guys. Okay. You have to wonder, is this intentional? Because why are they coming against me so hard when I try to say like, we could probably do better than this? No, you're the problem. Oh, okay. So it's like you're trying to sink your own ship and you don't want me to tell you that there's a hole in it. I'm like, you're taking on water right now. Okay. Like you're literally, I'm throwing buckets out the side trying to save this little dinghy that we're in. And you're like, literally like taking, your oar and like stabbing another hole in it, and you don't want me to say anything because I'm the problem. Like I just need to, and then you try to tell me if I just worked harder, like, yeah, I need to get a bigger bucket and scoop it out while you just sit there and just like destroy everything and I'm the problem. No. Okay. So, so Adam's basically like, he kind of just like, he's like, whatever, like, I'm gonna just throw it all out there. All the bad players, I'm gonna point out who they are and everything. And, he says he's kind of sounds like how my approach, which is like, he's like, make all the memes you want. I thrive on your hatred, which is exactly what I've said. Do you know how many memes the Libertarian Party has made about me over the past like month, of my spandex and me in the mountain? Some of them are funny. I can laugh, like I don't care. But, and then me pretending I'm like a Fed or something with glasses and so many memes, me with Mike Heiss saying not to look at my yoga pants, like so many memes, but I can laugh at it. And you know what I do not do? I do not block them because I am not, I am not a libertarian, okay? I'm like, have your fun, say what you're going to say. If you decide to come around, we'll have a real conversation. If you want to be a clown, then be a clown. Like it doesn't hurt me. Keep on making memes. Why are they attacking you? I missed it. Just keep listening. We'll get to this. It's just all about, they don't want the truth, and they definitely don't want truth from the people who appeal to anyone outside the party. Okay. And they don't want the truth from anyone who doesn't need them, because what happens, like they created like a little unit here, and this is how they gain power. Okay. They have, this red-haired one and this Clint one and, these power tower gangs, whatever. And they decide who is who in the party. They gatekeep, they block, they cause problems, and they make sure that there's, dissenting voices are silenced so that Mike Heiss can continue to be, the libertarian he is. And they get all their little friends to throw on and call people a Fed and all that stuff. That's how they work, okay? So, somebody says, I haven't blocked any libertarians, by the way. Good. So that's how they work. That's how it's all set up and everything. So basically, Adam's trying to tell Clint, like, he has evidence, or like, and Clint is like debating this like he's a lawyer, like trying to tell him like, well, that's not proof and that's not evidence. And then he throws shade on him at one point saying like, you've been in trouble with the law enough, you should know what evidence is. It's like, you're so grimy. Like, I'm sorry, but Clint is so grimy and I don't care. Like, he is grimy. He has weak ass energy. Like, he's one of those people. He's not like Adam. Like, he has to be like in a little clique in order to, you know, and they're positioning each other and they're doing this and they're propping each other up and they're liking all each other's posts. They don't stand alone. These people cannot stand alone. They have to be in a little clique to get anything done. So, so he tries to throw shade on him. He's acting all grimy. Let's see. Yeah, and Adam even calls him out. He's like, Clint, don't be a coward now. And spoiler alert, Clint acts like a coward, of course. So they talk about the evidence and everything of like, basically like the things like Mike Heise kind of either lied about and, just all of that. And, let's see. Yeah. So then Adam kind of talks about like, I guess in the things that I missed, like on Twitter, it sounds like people were maybe saying like, oh, he's psychopathic, he's schizophrenic, you know, he's all these things, like throwing shade on him, like as far as like mental health and stuff like that, which is like, people do that when they're trying to discredit. This is what Clint has been doing to me too. Like now they'll say that he's going around literally slandering me. You know, he has, of course, zero evidence to believe that I'm a federal informant or whatever he said in all those, you know, you guys can roll back through my stories. I highlighted it and everything, but he has zero reason to say that because it's absolutely not true. So he wants to go on and pretend like he's going to literally for facts say like I'm some type of federal informant. Like that's so stupid, first of all. You know, second of all, like he does that just to make people think about it. Like he doesn't have to have evidence, it doesn't have to be true. He just wants people to think, oh, Fed girl pants, you know, whatever. And then the other thing that he keeps saying about me, and this is like the similar thing, he keeps saying like, she's a bad actor. Well, that's just a smear campaign. You're going to go around and tell everyone I'm a bad actor. I'm not a bad actor. I'm calling you on your bullshit. Everyone is calling all y'all on your bullshit because what do? Like, this is the third time we've seen you all kind of protect like these pedophile situations. We see you all protecting Mike Heise over everything. We see you all blocking people, pushing them out of the party, not taking any type of responsibility for the fact that the party is like not going anywhere because you guys act so ridiculous. And no, so it's like you can call me a bad actor all day, but what proof do you have? You don't like that I wear yoga pants? That's your only thing? I wear yoga pants because I work out, I care about my health, I care about my body, and I think other libertarians should do the same. Take care of yourself, get stronger, go to the gym. You don't need to vape like they do, okay? Like, and if you vape, like no shade to you, but I mean, I'm pretty sure it has toxic chemicals in it, and I would look at quitting, okay? So they kind of come back around to like that COINTELPRO thing that Adam was talking about. And he's like, you know, back in the day when they started doing that, like these dissenters or whatever, their goal stopped being to like murder them, but instead they try to like discredit their reputation. So they call that bad jacketing. And basically they just assault their character, which is exactly what Clint's doing to me by saying I'm a bad actor and telling people I'm a federal informant or whatever. So, but it sounds like that's what they also did, you know, last spring to Adam. And that's why he's talking about in this podcast, because they only have one play now. Okay. This is how they act. Let's see. Yeah. So he basically says the exact same thing. Mises Caucus, drama, shitty messaging. It comes off almost like they want us to fail. So that's what we're seeing here. We don't see people trying to make us thrive. LP should have nominated John McAfee for president. Yeah, I've seen people say that a lot, or that they really, really liked him. Okay, let's see. So, hold on. I rolled too fast. Yeah, so Clint starts making excuses for Mike Heise, and he's like, well, maybe Mike just got bad info, and that's why, you know, he acted this way or that way too. And of course, that's another thing that people do. They like to cover, especially if you're in one of these little groups and Mike Heist is the boss and you are like, basically Clint is like his little like person to go out and try to character assassinate people. Like this is like their first line issue. Let's see. McAfee in yoga pants would have won. That's funny. Oh, we'll get to that. Somebody asked, how did the Mises Caucus come to power? So we're going to talk about that in a second. So basically, let me see. Yeah, Clint tried to make excuses like maybe Mike just got bad info. And, you know, that's like his job in this situation, it seems like, is to like, oh, well, maybe Mike just got bad info. Poor Mike. Like, why are you acting so crazy, you know? And he's like, he tries to tell Adam, I think right then, or maybe like at some point, he tries to tell him like, basically like he seems like he's upset or whatever, like trying to make it sound like he's being emotional and stuff. Let's see. Yeah, it sounds like Adam kind of maybe spoke against Dave Smith at some point, you know, that he didn't really like him. Some of these comments are awful. Oh, it's okay. You'll enjoy the comments. It's okay. Let me see. Let me get a drink here. So we'll go on a side note here to tell Brian when the Mises Caucus came into power. So this was like a little bit before the last convention, which was in May in Reno of 2022. It was last year. So they did the convention, and they basically installed like a whole new like regime. So that was like, you know, the chair, vice chair, all the, you know, treasurers, media people, all that stuff. Basically, almost all of them ended up being Mises Caucus members. So the Mises Caucus took over the LNC, which is basically like, if you're a Republican, you know, the Republicans have the RNC, and they were just really, really mad at who the chair was elected for them. It was like the same type of situation. They had somebody else who was the chair prior, Nick Sarwark, which I talked about in the prior video. I'm not really going to get into him here, but basically everyone started to hate him. He had been the chair for like 2 terms at least or something like that. And they wanted to get rid of him. And basically Mises Caucus took over. They installed all their people, and they decided, you know, this is how the party is going to go from now on. And they have acted like libertarians ever since, and that's how they got to power, and that's how they're in power, and that's how they try to stay in power. But as we know from the French Revolution, which I tweeted about this before, what happens when tyrants take power, you know, basically through these type of methods and everything, nobody really wants them? Well, they start to get paranoid. So they start to get paranoid, and just like that communist picture that we talked about where they're all of a sudden editing everyone out, that's how they have to act to keep power. So in the French Revolution, they started guillotining everyone, basically. Now, obviously, this isn't a violent revolution here, but that's what happened, all the way down to just like random women and stuff that really had never done anything wrong. They started guillotining everyone. They were so paranoid, trying to keep their power, didn't know who was against them, didn't know who was for them. That's what happens when you win something based on alliances. That's why it's so stupid. That's why all these people look like absolute they look like the biggest clowns to me right now, because what did they do? They created a whole system of alliances and who to trust and who to, you know, this person's the player here, this person's going to do this person that, you know, and that's why when something happens like the Eliza Blue thing, when you've created an alliance that isn't based on principles, that isn't based on shared mutual, you know, like we think this is the right thing and that's why we're going to act what's right. When you create an alliance that has to do with like power structures and things like that, you always get this. And then you always have to either compromise your principles or step on an alliance. It's like, what kind of choice is that? And then you end up the Mises Caucus where you have to block everyone, act crazy, like you have to basically, you know, fight to like stay in power by like blocking everyone who talks against you a little bit. You don't know who your friends are. You've created all these alliances. You have no principles. Like they're at the point where you could just push them over. You could just blow and the whole thing's going to fall over at this point, because that's what they did to themselves, because they didn't have any integrity. They just bullied people. They just acted like, you know, basically like children or just like a big gang, like the Tower Gang and everything. They just come after people. So, let's see. So moving on, Clint just goes on to basically like talk about, and my notes are so long, like let me try to like read back through these a little bit, but so Adam goes on to talk about like during COVID, like all the situation with his family, losing his stepdad, all this stuff, like really sad stuff. So what happens like after he gets through all that and he talks about it? Okay, first of all, people have painful stuff happen in their life, okay? People have stressful situations. People have situations where everyone's coming against them and they act a little bit under stress, or they show that they have some emotion or vulnerability. That's called being a human, okay? That is the human condition. When people come at me enough, am I gonna act a little stressed out? Yes. Does that mean I'm crazy? No. That is normal. That's actually normal when you're being like attacked by people, especially for telling the truth. And when you have a hard situation in your life, something emotional like losing a family member, and on top of it, all the COVID stuff, to have emotion and feelings around that is normal. And for someone to act like Clint, the smarmy, disgusting person that he was being in this, he goes, let's see. But I mean, that's just his job, this is why he was here doing this interview, and this is why I'll get to it, but this is why I would never do the Tower Gang podcast or whatever. So he basically says to him, like, I wish I had the exact, yes. Okay. So Clint says to him basically like, aren't these personal,
it's 9:15.
It's been 15 minutes again, you guys. Aren't these personal issues have led things to being like vitriolic, like you're acting out, lashing out at people? Basically, he tries to turn this around after Adam talks about all this story, everything that's been happening with his family and stuff. He basically tries to turn it around and say, sounds like you were under a lot of stress. Maybe that's why you lashed out at everyone. So Adam's like, telling the truth is not lashing out, which is like, this was another point in the podcast where I'm like, that is exactly what I'm trying to say. People say I'm coming at them when I just tell them the truth, when I just point out the issues. I never even named names. Like this, me being rude about Clint right now is about the rudest I've been about anyone. And I'll be rude about Josh Smith too, because of the way that he's acted towards me. Both of them have acted in ways that to me, I'm like, I can call you out. Prior to this, no. Like, but if somebody is acting a certain way, like you can't, Brian, love your usage of notes. I needed it because this podcast, I listened to like 3 podcasts he did. But anyways, or 2 podcasts he did and 1 about him. But basically, like he's trying to turn it around and be like, oh, you must have been so stressed. Like that's probably why you were acting out. And Adam's like, telling the truth is not lashing out, which is exactly, okay? Like when you tell the truth about people and they don't like it and they tell you you're just lashing out, like, no, that person is not, they are self-serving right there. And Clint is just here trying to spin things in a direction to make Adam look bad. And that's the whole reason he did this podcast. And it's the whole reason that he did the debate with me too, because he's just damage control for these people. So Clint goes on to defend Josh Smith, and Adam basically is like, look at the way that Josh Smith talks. Look at how he talks, and I don't know how Clint's like trying to defend that. Adam basically tells him he's being childish, which is 100% true. Like he's being ridiculous. And he talks about, so then Adam talks about the Tower Gang podcast, which everyone knows I've had so much issues with the Tower Gang. They try to be nice. They're like a bunch of like teenage boys, just like, or like middle school. They're like a bunch of middle school boys, and they're just coming at you and being rude and then trying to be kind of nice and then kind of be rude. And you're just like, this is exhausting. Like I've dealt with people like this in my life. It's just exhausting. Have a great week. Thank you. So basically he's like, their podcast is just, he's like, I felt myself getting dumber just listening to it. Yeah, and Clint was talking about exactly like, oh, you had emotional tough time. And Adam's like, this is like what you say. Like, if Adam disagrees, he must be mentally unstable. And I would just love to hear somebody say that about me. You 100% should have worn an 1800s outfit. I know I have 1800s clothes because this house is 100 years old. And I'm going to do some photos, and I was going to break it out and wear it. But like I couldn't do it. So I just had to put on something fast because I was running out of time. For any political party to be taken seriously, leadership needs to appear to be very professional, not like a bunch of teenagers. Exactly. So that's the thing that I don't like. That's character assassination. And that's, who have we seen this happen to? Let's think about this. Ye, they've tried to do that to Ye, like, oh, he's crazy, if he says anything. They tried to do this to Adam Kokesh, apparently tries to say, like, he's mentally unstable, he's having a bad time and stuff. I don't trust people when they start to say that, okay? Like, when somebody says somebody else is having a mental health problem, my flags don't go up about the person who might be in a stressful time, because I've been there and I understand. When all the people are coming at you, you might seem a little stressed out. Like you might be, because you're basically being cornered by people. You might show signs of slight stress, but does that mean you're having a mental health breakdown? No, it probably means you're like surrounded by this crazy scenario and how all these people are acting. So my flags go up when somebody says that about somebody else. And I've seen situations like that before where I'm just like, I do not trust these people who are saying that this other person's having like a mental health problem. So let's see. Does anyone know what happened to Ye? I heard he got married or something. We'll have to see. I always like Ye. I don't care what anyone says. They can, and that was the reason why, like, okay. When Tim Pool tried to have Ye on and then they all acted like a bunch of children, that was like what I see Tower Gang as. Like, they all acted like children. They're like, Ye must have done too many, drugs in the past to treat his mental illness, like that's why he acted like this and stuff. And it's like, no, he probably just didn't have time for your bullshit. Like, y'all are just acting like a bunch of kids, and he was probably like, what's the point of talking to these people? They're not on my level. And so he just left. But like, that's how those Tower Gang people act. And I'm like, why would I put myself in this situation after I've already seen how it goes? So basically, that's what they do. They're going to say, and I would love to hear any of these people, especially Clint. Like, I've watched so many podcasts with Clint, where he's like, I have anxiety and all this stuff. Come at my mental health, okay? Just come at it. Just come at my mental health, okay? I would love to see it. They've already tried to come at me about my son, and that was Josh Smith, because my ex-sister-in-law is a meddler and she does not believe that V products cause autism. So because of that, she is angry with me because I say that openly and she doesn't like it. So she tried to get with Josh Smith on Twitter and tell him, which she spelled my name wrong, which was so odd, I'm like, I was only married to your brother for 5 years, 6 counting the year we were separated. But you're going to come and say, just because my son doesn't have an official autism diagnosis, which he does not need because it's not necessary for his, his therapies. He had diagnosis of developmental delay with stimming. That's all the neurologist can do. You're going to come and make me try to sound like a liar, even though I've told this story like 1,500 times on Instagram and I have all kind of lives where I talk about it. It's like pathetic. And then you're going to talk to Josh Smith and Josh Smith is going to ask me about it and then act like a total turd. No. And I can't believe I just said the word turd. I'm sorry, you guys. Oh, you told me I'm an 8. Thank you. Then they all told me I was a 6. I was like, you guys are so ridiculous. Like, that's so childish. So, and why would I go on their podcast so they can just tell me I'm a 6 and a fed? And like, why would I do that? Let's see. So yeah, so they went back. If Adam disagrees, he must be mentally unstable. Like, it's so sad the way that they act. Okay. So Clint basically is like, so you're trying to say everyone around you is a liar. That doesn't add up. Well, it sounds like it is adding up. Okay. Like, and that's when Adam gets back into talking about like, don't you think there's infiltrators? Like, you guys talk about it all the time. And you said turd and you're a 6 and a fed blocking you. That's so funny. Turd, what are you, a 90s kid? I don't know why I said that. It just felt like the word that fitted there. So, okay. yeah, so Adam's basically like, don't you think that there are infiltrators, And then he talks about like, Josh Smith, Dave Smith, Michael Heist, all dishonest, And then I'm pretty sure that's when like Clint had to like debate him on honesty versus lies or something like that. And then Clint basically calls him paranoid. And I'm just like, this is exactly what y'all do. This is why you're here. This is why he had to go on with Clint, so Clint could call him paranoid and set the stage and say like 15 times, like such a suck up, like, well, I think Mike Heist and these people have integrity. It's like, no, you don't. You don't think they have integrity. You're in the little circle of trust, and we know you can't survive outside of it because you don't know how to live in the wild here. Okay, you don't know how to live with integrity. So if you get outside the little circle of trust, like, it's not going to work for you. So you're going to say, I think they're great people. I think they have integrity, because that's what you have to do. Otherwise, you're going to be gone. You're going to be X'd out of this situation, Stop, Brian. Brian says, Josh Smith, Dave Smith are very basic names. Maybe they're the feds. Yeah, exactly. Why do they all have the same last name? It doesn't even make any sense. And P.S. Clint's last name is Russell, and so is that creepy Thaddeus guy that he had on, and I thought that was a little bit much for me. So anyways, let's see. So yeah, Adam just talks about like people have basically fallen under the Mises Caucus spell. They're like, we have to, the Mises Caucus is so great and everything, and that's like they're just in control. And he talks about how he didn't call people out soon enough. Like, it sounds like there was maybe a 3-year period or so where he had seen all of this and yet he didn't call them out. Like, he let things happen and stuff, and he didn't really say anything. And I think a little bit later he talks about this too, is like, basically, because what happens is like exactly like Clint, you're going along and then something happens and you're like, this isn't really right. And then you're like, but I have like alliances with these people, and you get caught up in it. That's how politics works. And that's why I don't make alliances. I don't want to have friends, if you're and P.S. like, look, if you're my friend and I'm acting like a fool, like, tell me. Like, you can text me and be like, you shouldn't have said the word turd. You sounded stupid. Like, you should really work on that. I am your friend. I want you to know that I do think you have great qualities. I think you have really, really, really good things about you. But when you say the word turd, it like takes away from that. And I probably wouldn't do it. That's a friend. Okay. That is someone who cares about you and wants to see you succeed. If I say the word turd and I look stupid, like maybe you guys didn't think it was endearing, and my friend is reading the room and they're like, that didn't go well. That wasn't the right audience. She shouldn't have said that, but they're like, no, you're fine. You're good. No, you're good. Like, people are just hating on you just because they're jealous and stuff. That is not your friend. Okay. That person is not helping you. The person that's helping you is the person. Someone said, don't wear yoga pants. I'm hotter than a 6. People don't think we're working together. What? I missed something wrong. #turd. That's funny. So that's not your friend. Your friend's the person that calls you out when you need to be called out. Okay. So there's just that, like, and that's the way to win. That's the only way to win. And I'm gonna get on here because Clint says something kind of funny later. So, and Adam says Star Wars is also bad. He talks about how he does think like the grassroots of the Mises Caucus is well-intentioned. I think he sounded like he even liked their ideals too, which is like where I come from. It's not the ideals. It's not the principles. It's literally the power structure. That's the problem with this situation. So too factional is what he talks about. So that's another problem with libertarians. They're like, I'm a big L, I'm a little L, I'm a minarchist, I'm an anarchist. Then they get mad at me because I didn't read all their books. I'm like, the fact, and I do read some books. I actually listened to Adam Kokesh's book and it was really good. But I'm like, that's the reason why I don't waste my time fighting with all of you about things that don't matter. I look at the world and interpret it, and I think, what's the libertarian answer here? And then I say, is that even feasible? Or like, do we need to have something kind of in between? Because we need to face the fact that as libertarians, that doesn't mean no laws. Like, we are not we are not anarchists. Like, unfortunately, there is going to be some government involved. If you are going to have laws, they ought to protect the individual. That's how I see it. If you are going to have laws, they ought to make sense. Like, if you're going to just say, like, let's abolish everything and stuff, what's going to happen? We're not going to abolish anything. You're not going to be able to do it. So you have to really look at it from a standpoint of, like, what's feasible also. Okay, so Adam points out something this is groundbreaking here, okay? This is groundbreaking. No one's ever thought this before, okay? Definitely not me. Like, every time I've dealt with this dude, he tells Clint he has no intellectual integrity. And I was like, yes. Why are we the only two people that actually see this? Like, why is everyone else acting like this guy is so upstanding when it's so obvious? And maybe that's another thing. Like, I hate to say it, but people really lack discernment. Yeah, breaking news. Breaking news. People really lack discernment, and it's pretty sad. Like, that is a huge problem too. Like, people are not discerning the spirits and of the people around them. They're not looking at people and thinking, like, is this, like, what vibes do I get? Is this a good person? Is the things that they're saying lining up with what they're doing? They're not doing that. People are going, this is what they're doing. And this is the problem with the Libertarian Party. They're like, Clint has like 60,000 Twitter followers, okay? And 1,200 people watch his show, or 2,000 people watch his show. I should be friends with him, you know? And when he said something, I should agree with it so I can go on his podcast. And then Clint does that when he sees Tim Pool, because he wants to go on his podcast because he has 1 million followers. And then Tim Pool sees Joe Rogan, and he thinks that because Joe Rogan has like 10 million followers, and that's the problem, okay? And it's fine.
It's 9:30.
It's 9:30, you guys. It's been 15 minutes again. So that is not a problem if you just want to be a podcaster. But if you want to have an important role in a political party, it's absolutely a problem. Like, you don't just align with people because you want to like grift off their following. You have to have principles, or like you bring nothing to the table. You're actually taking away from the table. Oh, thank you. Have a good night. Yeah, so anyways, it just goes on and on. Like, basically, here's the thing that Clint says that I thought was pretty funny. And this is something that Clint also basically said on our live stream. Here's what he says, because Adam's basically saying, like, Mike Heist was dishonest back when he had done a show with him in the past. Like, he had been on his podcast, he'd had to fire him because he was dishonest. And he talks about the dishonesty in the party. And Clint says, I would hope a third party with no chance of winning wouldn't tolerate dishonesty. Clint says that our party has no chance of winning. That's how Clint feels about our party. That's how these, libertarian podcasters actually feel about the party. They do not think we can win. They're not here to win. They're here to grift off of us. They want to grow their podcast. They want to grow their comedy shows. They want attention. They want, things around them. They want to play political theater. It's political theater when they act like that. If you're going to say we have no chance of winning, that is saying literally you think we have no chance of winning. So what are you doing here? And I had the same conversation with Clint on my live stream. And the fact is that he doesn't think we can win, and he doesn't care. That's why he doesn't try to have integrity or try to do anything, the right way. He's literally here to have a podcast, which is fine, but don't go on and pretend that you're trying to save the party and do all the justice for the Mises Caucus when we know that you say that we're just the third party that has no chance of winning. Then you're mad at me. You're mad at me when I say, I think we can win. We just have to act a little bit better. If someone thinks the LP has no chance of winning and advocate for Republicans, why are they here? Exactly. And people are mad at me because I say the truth is that we actually can win, okay? If we pick the right people, we don't need to pick people like Clint that say we can never win. We need to have people out front talking libertarianism, getting elected as libertarians, running the party that look like someone that will win. Like, and I'm not talking visually, like you have to be beautiful or handsome or anything like that. I'm saying act professional and like an adult, where people, you don't want to be that patient in the hospital while I'm vaping and telling you that you're retarded and thinking that I'm about to perform a very extremely high risk procedure on you. They don't want that, and they don't want to vote for it either. So it's just like, I am beautiful though, 6+, you're better than me then, okay? You got me, they're going to put you on before me. So that's the thing. Clint doesn't think we can win. He's not in it for that. And that's what we all need to remember. He's in it so he can be friends with Eliza, so he can grift off her following, so that he can hang with Dave Smith, who he says is a friend, so he can grift off his following. That's, and he can protect Mike Heiss. They have their whole thing. They're happy with the way stuff is. They don't care if we win or not. They have their setup, and that's what they want. That's what I see it as when you don't take constructive criticism, when someone can't come to you and say, we can do better. And I might have said it a little bit not nice enough, but what are they? They're going to get their feelings hurt from me when they're just saying retard and what did Clint say in his Tower Gang podcast? Who should we genocide? That was their joke. But you're going to be offended by me when I say hey, maybe you guys aren't doing a good enough job. People might get maybe kind of alienated by this type of speech, So Adam goes on, talks about, he talks about Angela McArdle. He talks about the conflicts with Martha Bueno, which people, I guess, have been very, very against Martha Bueno, too. And let's see. Clint kind of talks about the reason why the Mises takeover was they stepped in because they felt that Ron Paul's legacy wasn't being protected. Well, I'm going to say something that all libertarians are going to hate me for. Ron Paul was not a libertarian. It hurts me to say this. It hurt me to realize this, because I was talking to a friend saying, yeah, Ron Paul, I feel like such a clown right now. Ron Paul won, he won some of his state house seats as a libertarian. Yeah, no, he didn't. He won every single one of them as a Republican. And then I was just I am living a fraud right now. I love his podcast. I love all the things he says. I think he's so common sense. But he ran and served as a Republican. So that's all I can see it as. If we want, let's see, Martha Bueno actually does libertarian stuff. Yeah, I've seen good stuff from her. I don't know her too much, but she's always been nice and supportive and everything. Ron Paul, he did run as a libertarian, but I don't think he won in 1980. I don't think he ever won an election as a libertarian. He ran as a libertarian, I think for House, and didn't win, pretty sure. And he ran for, president and stuff like that. But that's not the same. All the times that he was actually sitting there, he had an R next to his name. So it's we have so much more work to do than I even thought, but I still don't think it's a lost cause. I'm still not Clint over here just throwing in the towel, let's just have a podcast and vape about this. I am not ready to do that. Okay. So, and, in this podcast too, Adam talks about some of that stuff. He talks about nepotism, profiteering, to do with Ron Paul. I don't know exactly. He talks about John Tate, Jesse Benton, which I don't know anything about. I didn't have time to look into it, but, and then he goes on and he says something interesting. He says, you don't fight fire with fire, you fight fire with water. And I thought that was really smart, because I'm that is true, because what's happening right now, fire, 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 everyone's burning the party to the ground. And I'm doing the same exact thing. And he's right. That's not what we need to be doing. Let's just have a podcast and vape about this. Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what they think. What's the benefit of winning a federal race as a libertarian? What's the benefit of doing all this if we are not going to win elections? We can't really change anything at a federal level if all we try to do is win city council seats and stuff. If we want to do that, that's fine. But then why even have an LNC? Why aren't we just 50 little libertarian parties that all just work on a state level? Why even have an LNC then? It doesn't make any sense. Clint goes on to accuse him of selling fake silver. It sounds like it was obviously copper stamped silver, but looked like copper, and they were giving it away. So it was just like one of those fake accusations. And Adam points that out. He's like, well, and Clint's in his smarmy attitude, basically, oh, I'm just asking a question. And Adam points out, he's like, Rise to Liberty podcast says we shouldn't have an LNC. Well, there, if you're a purist, then I can understand your point. If you don't think that we should have either one, then I get where you're coming from, and I can respect that. Let's see, Adam, you asked, oh yeah, so Adam points out he asked in an accusatory way. He doesn't just ask, he's like, wow, I heard you sold this fake silver or whatever. It's like, just lame. Okay. So let's see. So then he asked him about Dave Smith. And this is kind of interesting because I had never really hit on the Dave Smith issue, but I don't think that Dave Smith is really a great candidate for president. Actually, people will get mad about this. Feel free to soundbite this and tell me what a jerk I am. And you can call me a turd again because we used that word already one time. Basically, I watched it was like a debate between, it was like Hot Stool. No, what was it? It was on something, but it was Dave Smith versus Nick Sarwark. And everyone wanted me to see this because, Clint baited me into it. Clint put laughs in Sarwark on my thing. And I was like, whatever, you guys always hate this guy. And then people start sending me, a video to watch. I watched it. And I was not impressed with Dave Smith. To be honest with you, not being a jerk or anything, you just went from a 6 to a 5.5 after that statement. Thanks. You love Dave Smith? Okay, Dave Smith in the podcast, he is a more skilled speaker than Nick Sarwark is. And I'm not defending Nick Sarwark. I don't know much about him or anything. Obviously, him and I disagree on a ton of stuff. I'm just going off this one video because that's all I really know about the guy. So basically, Dave Smith knows how to take a statement, pivot it to where the person's cornered, and then make them say something, okay? He's very good at that. It would be hard to have a conversation with him if you can't do that dance well, very well. But that's all he really had, because then what does he just say? Oh, all his speaking points are not that in depth, and they don't show that he has any experience. He's basically saying I'm anti-war, I'm anti-Fed, and Nick Sarwark's talking about well, yeah, I know that gets a lot of hearts and it got a lot of cheers there too, but he's talking more about well, how don't you think that this and that impact the everyday person more? And it's Dave's how can you say, he's getting all up in arms and stuff. He also, he throws out the Ron Paul thing. To me, it sounded like a propaganda line. I personally, I think that I see through people in a way that other people do not. You can say that it's not true, but just let time tell it. Because I have had this my entire life where I'm no, that person's no, that person's no, that person's no. And I am really disappointed by my intuition. So the times I'm actually most disappointed is when I give someone a chance that I shouldn't have, because then I'm okay, I knew better, but I gave this person a chance and gave them the benefit of the doubt, and they turned out to be exactly like I thought. So you said Dave Smith does speak well, but his messaging is not very good as far as being on platform libertarian. Okay, so you don't love him either. So basically, Dave Smith just throws out well, I just love Ron Paul. And of course, every single libertarian's yeah. And they just love that. But I'm that doesn't, that you didn't really make any good points there. And I was it seems he's just I don't know, maybe it gets boring to be a comedian after a while and you have to do something else. And he's maybe politics, or maybe this would be great for my podcast or something. I can get all these fanboys to come hang out with me and want to be like me and stuff. But literally that's what he seemed like. He didn't seem that knowledgeable to me, and I'm not saying I'm more knowledgeable. I just do commentary and stuff on here and talk a bunch of smack, but he didn't sound that knowledgeable. I didn't think he would win president with that. I was he's created a lot of fans, but all he did was Ron Paul's so great and the Fed and war and stuff. And that was it. He publicly said he didn't vote for Joe Jorgensen in 2020. Yeah, and they talked about that on there too. He didn't, he says, was it 16 or was it 20 in that video? But he basically said he didn't vote at all, I think. And then Sarwark talks about like, well, I voted for the Libertarian. And that's where they started to bait him, because they were like, basically, you know, they just started to get him like, well, you'd vote for this person if they were Libertarian, you vote for this person. And that was what the whole thing started about. I didn't vote for Jorgensen either. I voted for Joe Jorgensen. I did. I was very excited to be a new Libertarian. I voted for Joe and Spike. Yeah, I did. But you did not. Okay. You voted for, I'm assuming, Republican then. Let's see. So, and everyone has the right to vote for whoever they want. But I thought that Nick Sarwark made a good point that if you are, well, first of all, if you're the LNC chair, it's a little much not to vote for your candidate that you put out, you know, otherwise, like, what are you doing pretending like you're rallying behind this person? So I would think you would vote for the candidate that you hopefully believed in and hopefully helped. And he made a couple of points too, and not to get off on that, but he made a couple of points that were like basically like trying to say if the delegates picked this person, then that's the person. And people didn't like that. So Jorgensen was 100 times better than Trump or Biden. I mean, she was against vaccines, which I'm not supposed to say that word on here, but I'm going to. And she actually had some stuff out with messaging about it. Now, it might have been a little soft at the time, but at the time, like, everyone was like treading on thin ice and stuff. So I voted for her and I liked her because of that. And so, I mean, other than that, I don't know too much about her, like, personally since or before her campaign. But anyways, so that was basically the end of the debate. Adam says, you know, basically if the Libertarian Party continues to be an embarrassment, then Dave Smith is a great face for it. You know, maybe I took that a little bit out of context, but that's basically what it says. So I don't know exactly how much time elapses, but then he goes on Tower Gang podcast. And this is kind of the issue.
It's 9:45.
Sorry, you guys. It's been 9:45. I need to wrap this up. This went for way too long. Jorgensen is a wet blanket. Spike was carrying the campaign. I really like Spike. Honestly, I think, well, and I really like Larry Sharp too. I think that they both have great politician energy, like as far as somebody that people would feel comfortable with and people would trust, you know, to have a position of authority. So I like both of them. Do I agree with both of them on everything? Not necessarily. I have different ideas about the borders. I can't really do the open borders thing. I know Spike has talked about that. He's kind of like, sounds pretty open border, but I'm just going to say if there was libertarians running, like, they would be good ones, based on just their energy, how they conduct themselves, everything. And I think they're both very, very, very intelligent. So, but yeah, so my point is, and then I need to wrap this up because it's getting so late. But the Tower Gang. So the Tower Gang, same thing with me. I go on with Clint, then it's like still beef, and Clint's trying to throw like little bits of shade on me, saying that he went easy on me in the debate or something. Everyone's like, oh, Clint beat you, da-da-da. No, Clint just yelled at me and he didn't have anything to say. Like, let's just be realistic here. He could not come against the things I was saying because he actually thinks what he said in this podcast, which is what he said in there. He doesn't think libertarians are going to win. Like, there's no point. And basically, he doesn't want to change how things are because he likes it. So then I told him what I thought about his clip with Eliza and why I felt like he was hurting the party even more by not coming out and saying, like, what she said wasn't right. You know, this is not somebody that I stand behind. This is not somebody we need to be making like the face of the party. He didn't do any of that. He wanted to grift off her following, and he just went on and was like, well, we're friends, and she just meant it like this. It's like, no, not good for anyone. So then Tower Games, this is like the third time they've started to come at me like, maybe you should be on our podcast and argue with us. We'll have a debate with you, all that stuff. And I was like, yeah, maybe. But then I saw that Adam Kokesh had done that whole interview with Clint, just like I did with Clint. Then he goes on to be on Tower Gang. And now he's not in the movement anymore. Like, nothing good came of it. Tower Gang just acts like clowns. They just sat there. They were like, basically playing their weird genocide game that they thought was so funny. And like, I'm sorry, like, I just don't understand comedy and stuff. They're just such comedians. They're just so funny. Like, they're just so, the humor level is just so high that like my little brain couldn't handle it. It's probably like because the spandex is like choking off all of the mental power that the tower gang has, that like I don't have it because my pants are too tight and I'm a 6. So basically he just goes on there, says the same things, like we don't have a high standard for confronting people who don't have integrity, who are being dishonest. And he just talks about like people have done like, they see dishonest things, but they don't really say anything about it. Let's see, he left by his own choice. Yeah, and I'm sure he left by his own choice, but I'm just saying nothing good came of the conversations. And that's why I was like, why would I go on to Tower Gang so they can just argue with me and tell me stupid jokes about genocide, and I have to sit there while they act cringy and stuff, when he already proved the point. This is how they operate. Clint's going to come along. The Tower Gang's going to come along. Mike Heiss is going to sit in the background and make sure that everyone does his bidding, and nothing comes of it. Like nothing got better. Okay. So no, I wouldn't go on Tower Gang because I saw what happened when he went on Tower Gang. Nothing awful, but nothing good. So like, what's the point? Because it just gives those people who are like, they have this low level, like bratty energy. It just gives them attention. And I'm not trying to give them attention. They're just going to get more. They're getting obnoxious. Like I tried to be nice at first and I'm like, okay, they're just being funny. They're just playful. They're just obnoxious. Like they're obnoxious people. And that's fine if they want to be obnoxious, but I don't want to play with them. Like nothing good's going to come of it. Okay. So basically he again talks about like, don't be so naive that the enemy doesn't send infiltrators. And then of course, like people want to say I'm the infiltrator. I'm the only person with integrity that doesn't like have alliances or need friends. Like I'm the only person that's not going to say Clint has more followers than me. Maybe I should be nice to him. He's a good guy because other people think he's a good guy. No, if you're going to act stupid, I'm going to tell you you're stupid. That's why I know that I'm not an infiltrator, and everyone should too, because if I was, I would make alliances and find dirt on these people. Like, has no one watched a movie before? That's what an infiltrator would do. I would come in and I'd act all chummy, and then you get the dirt, right? You don't come out of the gates as an infiltrator being like, you guys are messing up. Look how stupid you are. Like, why is the party not acting better? Let's rally. That's just a regular person who actually has principles, but no one in the Libertarian Party acts like they've ever seen that before. So they're like, she's a Fed. No, if I was a Fed, I would pretend like I liked you, and then I would find out all your information. That's how that works. Like, has no one seen a spy movie before? Like, get real here. It's so ridiculous. So anyways, it's like so ridiculous. If you have to talk to a status, reason, logic, you take people who are coming against you, accusations. Oh, they basically called him melting down on Twitter. I'm like, it's so ridiculous. Anyone I don't know in the LP is a Fed. Well, that's the point. That's the point he kind of makes. The people you do know that seem like they're sabotaging the party, they might be the Fed. Like, think about the people that you know that act like everyone does know them in the party, but they're acting like they don't want the party to win, or they're saying that the party can't win, or they're making excuses. That seems more like a Fed to me. Brian says, I'm your Republican Fed. That's funny. Okay, so anyways, you take it like people are coming against you with accusations. This is kind of what they told him. We were reacting to you melting down on Twitter. They basically tell him he was melting down on Twitter. When I didn't see this stuff, but people started telling me the same thing when they're all dogpiling on me, because I was like, hey, like, and I poke the bear a little bit and I accept that, but they start saying the same exact thing. Why are you melting down? I'm like, because you're literally calling me an e-thought and like screaming at me right now. And then Clint does a Clint thing, of course, because he goes, he says that he's like, well, I've been a good sport. He acts all smarmy again, and he's like, I've been a good sport. I let you call me an idiot for 90 minutes. Watch the podcast. Adam does not call Clint he does not call him an idiot for 90 minutes. Like, it's so ridiculous. So anyways, the whole thing. Oh, and then the funniest part, the actually funny part, there was only one. The Tower Gang is not funny. Like, I'm sorry. You might think they're funny, like, if you share their sense of humor, but they don't have, like, any, like, great comedic talents. Like, they can just be, like, really rude and just, like, ridiculous. But there was one funny part of the Tower Gang podcast episode, and that was that when Clint says that Adam called him an idiot for 90 minutes, one of the other Tower Gang guys, like, he references, he's like, well, you did have Thaddeus Russell on. And that was funny because this is the whole situation. He had probably, I mean, he had him on, like, I guess maybe a year prior, but that's the whole situation we've just been arguing about. And it was pretty funny. I'm like, what a way to end it. And then I think pretty much, like, right after that, I think Adam, like, got off the podcast, or maybe that was, I know he wasn't on it for the whole time. It was like he was only on it for, like, half. And so I only listened to the first half because I couldn't really listen to the Tower Gang, like, without them having him on there. So there was another podcast too that I listened to that was, like, a whole lot of just accusations against him, or, like, saying about arrests and stuff like that. I didn't really listen to the whole thing there. He wasn't on it, but these were kind of old. It looks like about the same time. I listened to his book. I really liked it. It was very good. It is called, hold on. Oh gosh, you guys. Freedom? Is it called? Somebody remind me of the title. It has, like, a drawing on the front. But it was good. I think he reads it himself. I listened to the Audible. Seemed very well spoken. Very, intelligent ideas. What's your favorite book on liberty? So everyone says stuff like that, like, oh, I read this person, I read that person. I don't read all the books that everyone read. Like, I read so many different types of books. Like, I like liberty. I like, the books that I like are, like, historical fiction or historical books about, like, the revolution and stuff like that. Adam Loves the Man, wasn't it Adam versus the Man? Was a great podcast by Kokesh. But yeah, so it was good. Anyways, so the podcasts were interesting. The whole situation was interesting. The book was interesting. But the reason that it was so interesting to me was because, once again, it was the same people, involved. There's Mike Heist. There's the Mises Caucus. There's a whole bunch of lies. Probably something by Alexander Hamilton. That's funny. I do like Hamilton, even though everyone hates him because he was a statist and stuff. I like him because he was the first, like, American come from the bottom story. Like, that's the reason why I like him. I don't, of course, think that all of his things that he did were, totally great and everything, but I do think he was an interesting character. So, anyways, just to wrap this up, basically, what we've seen here is whenever anyone talks, Ben Franklin, that's Brian loves Ben Franklin. Whenever anyone talks against the Mises Caucus, situations start to happen, okay? We have the Tower Gang comes out. We have Clint comes out. We have character assassination. We have podcasts they have to go on. We have, like, hazing online. We have, people having to tell you that Mike Heist and all these other people are upstanding. And I love Josh Smith. I think he's an upstanding person. And I love Mike Heist. I think he's the greatest thing that ever happened to the Libertarian Party. Like, they have to come out. They're going to smear your, they're going to smear you as a person. And then they're going to, tell you how great these other people are. And that's what's going to happen. And they're going to block you because they are libertarians, and they're going to just block you and get you out of the party. And you know what? Like, his story and mine are not the only ones. Like, who else? There was, like, somebody on one of these tweet threads was like, we have 70 people or something in our people who have been blocked by the Mises Caucus group. Like, They block everyone. They block so many people. And Mike Hayes told me he's blocked me now. I never said anything rude to him, though. Like, I was nice to him and everything. I mean, him and I talked on the phone, and then he was mad because I pointed out the fact that, you know, there was a news article pointing out the fact that that Idaho killer was a libertarian. And I was like, maybe if you did better marketing, people wouldn't see this and then connect it to libertarians. But you guys refused to. So, yeah, I don't know. So anyways, he blocked me. Actually, I had texted him like one other time to tell him somebody retweeted something of mine. And I was like, look, this is like a perfect situation where basically, like, you know, if this person says they're libertarian or says they're showing they align with libertarianism, like somebody should reach out to them. And they're like, he was just like, don't pretend that we haven't already done that or something. I'm like, why would I know? And they're like, you assume a lot. He said something like that. You probably said something about a libertarian. Yeah, I don't talk about them. They're not serious people and need to be removed. No working with them. Yeah, and that's what, you know, the sense I got from this, the sense that I've been feeling. I'm like, these people don't want to work together. It's their way or the highway, you know, and that's because they basically took over through, like I said, alliances and just like, you know, tyrannical tactics of like blocking people and a character assassination and stuff. And when you do that, there's only one way to keep it up. Like, you can't suddenly grow integrity, like on something that you built from like force and all these types of tactics. Like, it's not going to happen. So they're not going to be able to really thrive. What they're going to have to do is double down and just block everyone. And it's just funny to me right now because what's happening is eventually they're going to have blocked like half the party, right? Like, eventually they will have blocked like half the party, and then they can't win again. Like, they're not going to be able to get elected and stuff to their roles and continue having like, you know, power in the party if they block everyone. Like, there'll be no one left to vote for them. And Maj does the same thing. Like, Maj try to be, you know, we had a conversation in the beginning, but again, he's somebody that comes along and he acts just like they do. He's a Mises Caucus one too. And, you know, he's like, well, let's talk about this.
It's 10 o'clock.
It's 10 o'clock, you guys. It's been 15 more minutes and it's time to wrap it up. Who cares? Not enough marketing on the planet to make Libertarian Party relevant. The biggest thing everyone forgets about this movement is decentralization. So you keep saying Mises, yet I'm Mises and don't fall into anything you've said about them. So yes, and that was a point that Adam touched on in here, is it's not the grassroots Mises people, like, or the Mises ideals. It's the leadership. The leadership acts like this, and obviously like the bigger influencers like Maj and stuff. So I had Maj on because he had kind of gotten involved in one of my tweets too. We talked. I thought it was fine. I didn't really go, you know, like I very treaded lightly and was just nice with him. I mean, I wish I didn't do that now because, of course, then later he's like, oh, she's just a pot stirrer, and just saying like, oh, what did he say? The feds now have better headlights than the old models. It's like rude, okay? Like, but it is what it is. And I don't know. I think he probably blocked me maybe yesterday. Although I never came to anyone's tweets and said anything disrespectful, they just block me, I guess, because they don't want to have to respond to my tweets because it like enrages them or something. So got blocked by Redhead Libertarian yesterday because she was mad that, you know, I called out Clint, and then she thought like she could make a joke back at me that I didn't think was really that funny. I was like, I'm just done talking to you. She kept on tweeting, and then she had to block me. I'm like, okay, well, bye. Like, I haven't responded to you in like half the day. Libertarian Party can decide who wins between Dems and Reps. If active right could be incredibly powerful swing votes. Exactly. And we don't wield enough power because we have people in the party with low self-esteem for the party who say, let me find it. Where is it? He said basically, this is from Clint on that podcast with Adam Kokesh, I would hope a third party with no chance of winning wouldn't tolerate dishonesty. He doesn't think we have a chance of winning. Those are the people that we have in place. They don't think we have a chance of winning, and they're not going to try because what do they have? They have podcasts to deal with. They have official roles that they want to have, and that's where they're at. They block you because you're a 6. They didn't want to see a 6 in yoga pants. Exactly. They block me because of yoga pants. No, people block me because they don't like the fact that, like I said, I don't have friends, I don't have alliances, I don't care. Like, and I'm just going to say the truth as I see it. I'm like, you're not giving this person a fair shake, or, you know, you're messing up here. Your messaging is bad, you know, like, look how you treated this guy who was trying to call out a bunch of people who are acting like liars and shady and stuff, and you're going to use these tactics. I'm going to call it out. So what's going to happen? They're built on alliances. Like, they can't have me in their movement. So, yeah, it's always going to be like that. Until what happens, like I said, till they block half the party, alienate everyone, and fall out of favor. Something else will come up. Hopefully it's that decentralized idea of just good libertarians, just good regular libertarians, not like this caucus or that caucus or like anyone trying to take over. Yeah, they shouldn't be involved with that attitude. They should move out and let someone else fill the role that actually wants to grow LP. Yeah, exactly. And, I mean, Josh Smith supposedly stepped down. So I guess that's the next question. I mean, thank goodness. That guy was such I mean, what a leadership person to have, who calls their registered libertarian members an e-thought for having ideas that were different than theirs. Like, no. And then he does a 2-hour podcast smearing me, tries to pretend like I'm like making stuff up about my son and everything. I'm like, you look ridiculous. Okay. Good thing you stepped down. And, you know, like I said before, he can paint any picture that he wants about he stepped down because he's so noble, or he stepped down because this, or he stepped down because that. He probably just needed to go. Like, it was a role that he wanted for a long time. We all know he ran like 3 times or something for chair and stuff before he finally got vice chair. And it was a role that was too big for him. He doesn't know how to act respectable. Like, he just doesn't. So it just didn't work out, you know? And I mean, he can say like, oh, it was all about principle and stuff. You finally grew some principles right now? I don't think so. I think that was a convenient excuse, if you ask me. That's my prediction. But, you know, we'll let him have it, because all we care about is that he's out the way and we can get somebody better now. And hopefully it will be somebody better, because, I mean, if they just install another Mises Caucus, you know, person to just gatekeep and block everyone and not have dissenting voices in the party and not have any true dialogue, then, I mean, I guess we'll just get more of the same. But maybe it won't be as obnoxious, at least, as Josh Smith. So it's funny, the same criticism I hear from to the current leadership is the same one. Yeah, so exactly. I mean, it's not necessarily any different. When are you bringing back Maj Towery and or other like-minded libertarians? I just finished talking about how Maj called me the Fed has better headlights than they used to. Like, Maj is not coming back on. He is a Mises Caucus person. He does not like me now. Like, I mean, he didn't explicitly say that, but he's been kind of like, you know, he's been throwing vague shade on me in tweets, and I don't care. I'm like, I'm not going to come over to your tweet and be like, why are you throwing shade on me? Like, I'm just like, whatever, dude. You know, you're probably going to block everyone soon anyways. Like, half the people I know are blocked by you. Like, it doesn't matter. Would you be willing to go on other people's shows and podcasts? Yeah, I've done a bunch of podcasts. Love to do podcasts. Love to chat. I mean, the only one I would not do is Tower Gang, because like we said, in this whole thing, like I talked about, Tower Gang, all they're going to do is just act ridiculous. Nothing comes out of it, and I'd have to listen to their stupid jokes. So no. I went to Mises over 12 years ago. Tucker Carlson was there. He moved from Liberty. Are you talking about the Mises Institute? And they followed in his direction. What? This is news to me. I didn't even know. Yeah, it's just been over on Twitter. Don't worry about it. It was nice. Stop mentioning them. Stop mentioning, the Tower Gang. Why are you getting grossed out? Okay, so we're done. This was fun. Thank you all so much for listening. Hopefully, you know, you never know if Adam Kokesh is going to come back to the movement someday. I mean, who knows? Like, there's been a lot of good libertarians in the past, a lot of good libertarians right now. It would be great to see more good libertarians just do the things that libertarians do, which is like spread the ideas of liberty, being respectful, being interesting. But that's not what we have right now. What we have right now is libertarians just basically gatekeeping, blocking each other, and just like spiraling. If you ever say like, hey, this could probably be done better, they just start to go out of control. So we'll see. The next convention for the Libertarian National Committee is not for another year. We do have, obviously, there's going to be all kind of stuff coming up where they're going to be picking, who's going to be like the presidential nominee, all this stuff. Obviously, they're going to be picking a new vice chair soon, so that's kind of interesting. But basically, I'm going to just try. I'm going to try. Like, do not quote me on this because I'm not good at it. But I'm going to try to stop meddling and stuff. I'm going to try to just do my thing, keep talking about, libertarian ideals, talking about health freedom, getting different people on here that are actually like, doing good stuff, working with my local, community here, working with my local representatives. Thank you, Brian. And just kind of trying to just go that route, connecting with like regular libertarians. So that's one reason. And this is the other thing. Let me just say this really fast. People call me a Fed all the time because I know how to grow social media. But the thing is that growing social media is just like anything else. Growing social media is about like you create relationships with people. You actually talk to them. Like I grow my social medias, like not because, okay, so I've never had like people who, this is why they don't understand me at all. Why they're like, how'd you grow, 10,000 Twitter followers in like 2 or 3 months? Well, I never relied on friends. Like, if you need friends to come and hold your hand and, like everything and make a comment and stuff, and jump on every person that argues with you and stuff, that's what you need to grow your social media following, that is not, like, you're not going to understand somebody like me. So what do? I go out, I talk, I cultivate new relationships, I meet people. That's why, like, my social media here grew. And yeah, maybe it could be like, maybe I could have 100,000 followers or something, or 1 million if I played the game a little bit better and I was like, oh, well, let me align with this person and so I can go on their podcast and stuff. I just don't really do that. Like, I mostly like to have people on that actually have like less following than me, like just regular people, regular interesting people. Or like if it's a big account, sometimes it's like people that are actually doing something, like they own a certain business. Like I've had like Red Balloon Network on, things like that. If I'm going to work with people, I usually want them just to be regular people, not like somebody else who, now I have to worry what their following is going to think about me and stuff like that. Like I try to avoid that as much as possible. So that's what people don't understand is like, I grow social media because I comment back with people. I answer all my messages. Like I'm really behind right now, but I try to connect with people like just on like a basic level, not like, oh, okay, well, we're going to do, we're going to do this podcast and we're going to do that. And my friends are going to come on and, and like, oh, like my stuff. Oh, this girl's being mean to me. Why don't you all dogpile on her? No, like I've never had to operate like that. So that's why they don't understand me. That's why they're like, why does her social media grow? Like, she shouldn't have any friends. No, my friends, I'm like, stand back. Okay, like I like you, like do not get involved in this argument right now because it's not going to do anything for you. And like I just handle my own business. So as long as you and your mass followers aren't bought and paid for, well, that's what's so funny too is like, no, I've never, okay, you can tell when people buy their followers. And I sometimes wonder that about like those Tower Gang people and stuff because when you don't have, now granted, like some of them went on Tim Pool and stuff, and that's probably why they have followers. But when your engagement doesn't match how many people are following you, that's how you know somebody bought their following. Like if you look at my post, like I posted like a news article or something, it has like 150 comments or maybe it has like 300 comments or something. I didn't buy my followers. Like it would be absolutely crazy to think that I bought followers that comment on everything. She mentioned them again, blocked. I'm so sorry. So that's what I'm saying. Like when people think that, I'm like, you know I didn't buy my followers. That's why you don't like me so much. When you see that, like, the post that is criticizing you or not even, or just talking about libertarianism or something, you know, when I only have 3,000 followers and it has like 100,000 views and there's like, you know, or 50,000 or something like that, and there's like a bunch of them like over on Twitter, you know, that's how you see an account that's growing. People don't like that if they don't control you. That's why they get so like up in arms with me, because they're like, why is her account growing? Like, we need to get this, you know, they're like, either she needs to be friends with us, or now they're like, you chose not to be friends with us. Now we have to try to get rid of you. So that's kind of how people work. And I don't play that game. I'm just like, whatever, you know. I say this all the time. Now I say it all the time because it's just a fact. Every single libertarian, and this is something we all have to come to grips with, like, internally, every single libertarian could hate me and like delete me from everything and never pay attention to me again, and I could still win an election. I would probably win it better. Like, I could win. Now, I'm not saying I personally could win president, but I'm just saying, based on numbers alone, that's like how low the libertarian numbers are. Like, they don't matter. So every single libertarian can try to X me out or whatever. And as long as I still align with people who have like-minded ideals, like, there's enough of them out there that, you know, I could still win an election. I could probably be a bigger influencer if that was like my grift or whatever, but it's not. So people with their comments deleted. Mises on way out, think past them and don't be partisan like them. Yeah, for sure. So anyways, that's my point there. People want to say, like, you know, all kind of stuff, or I'm a fit, or how'd you grow your following and stuff. Well, it's not that hard. Like, why don't you just ask me? I would love to see y'all all grow your followings. I would love to see everybody who's a libertarian reaching more people who aren't libertarians. And that's the other thing. They don't like me because I actually reach non-libertarians too. And they can't control that, because they can control how libertarians see me by trying to like smear my name and say, I wasn't nice enough to Mike Heiss and stuff. Wait, hold on. It's about to say it, isn't it? No, it's only 10:14. It's going to say it in just a second. But yeah, I actually have to get up at like 3:45. I get up to work at 3:45. So I work at the gym. Isn't that what's great about the LP? There's no rhinos and dinos, no such thing as linos. No, we call them libertarians, okay? The libertarians will block you if you say anything.
It's 10:15.
It's 10:15. It's been 15 minutes, you guys, and Joe called it out. So Gary Johnson got like 5 million votes. He did a lot right. Nice. But I mean, people have problems with him too, and you know. So, but basically, yeah, I'm done. I gotta wrap this up, you guys. I'm super tired, but thank you so much. This was fun. Wish I stayed on topic and like made it a little bit better, but my live streams and stuff like this are always just super rough. People hated on me for that. There's probably a horrible echo. These have like, I don't even know, is that 12-foot ceilings or something? This house is so old. The ceilings are so tall. There's no rugs in my room. I just moved and I don't have good equipment, and there's no Wi-Fi yet. Like, they literally haven't put Wi-Fi lines down my road. Like, I would have had to get satellite, but they're digging the lines right now. So I'm just like holding out. So sorry for the poor video quality. Sorry about the echoes. I'm going to try to do better in the future. But my video with Clint did get like 1,200 views over on YouTube. So that was kind of awesome, because my YouTube channel is brand new. It only has like 71 followers. So I would really appreciate if you guys follow me there. I do have a Rumble, but I'm probably going to focus on YouTube. Someone said, keep it up, that Liberty chick. If I need to hide or get away, I'm moving in. Oh, to my old house. Thanks. My 100-year-old house. Yeah, I painted the walls, you guys. I can't even get into this, but they definitely, I did a bad job. Like, the color looks awful, but I will never try to paint them again for at least a few years. So I'm gonna have to do with it. I think the house is mad at me, actually, because it was this purple color and I don't know what I did to it. It didn't really work with the beadboard, but it's your beautiful house and it's not your fault. I'm gonna get you nice some curtains. So, but yeah. All right, you guys, thanks so much. I think I have some podcasts or something this week. I'll keep you all posted, but have a fantastic night and thank you.